Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaskar. Today we will be discussing the next topic in Salesforce management, and this is evaluation of Salesforce. So this is going to be the last lecture in this module 6 of our course on sales and distribution management. However, this topic shall be dealt with in 2 lectures, and which will be lecture 30 and lecture 31. So we shall be discussing a part of Salesforce evaluation in this lecture, and then in lecture 31 we shall be covering the rest of it. Now we have discussed earlier that Salesforce management involves recruitment, selection, training, motivation of Salesforce. It also involves reimbursements and managing selling expenses for Salesforce. We have also talked about the compensation system, and we have spoken about how people are paid salaries either as fixed salaries or as variable components or a combination of both. And we have discussed how the expenses of the sales force are reimbursed, and both compensation and reimbursement of these expenses act as huge motivators to Salesforce, which we also discussed earlier as a part of Salesforce management. Now the next topic in Salesforce management is evaluation of the sales force, and this is going to be a topic of discussion today, which we shall start with and continue in the next lecture. Now, why is evaluation required? Any and every evaluation or assessment is required to ensure things are going on as planned. In our case, it is something which is required to ensure that the goals and targets which have been laid out are being met by the performance of the sales force in the field. We need to see whether things are going on as planned. We have discussed earlier that planning and control are inseparable. They are the Siamese twins, and in order for organizations to perform effectively, it is very essential that both planning and control mechanisms are go hand in hand, so that whatever is planned as targets, as sales goals can be achieved within the time frame and with the prescribed resources. So of course we see that in several cases things don't go on as planned, and whatever has been planned in terms of sales goals, sales objectives, sales targets may not always be achieved. Yet companies must strive towards attainment and fulfillment of those objectives, and that is why it becomes very essential that the performance of the sales force is evaluated from time to time, not only to assess their performance levels at a micro level, but also to assess as to whether the overall objectives of the organization are being achieved or not. So Salesforce evaluation at a micro level may mean an assessment of the sales force and the salesperson's activities, but at a macro level it actually implies an overall assessment and a very comprehensive assessment to ensure whether sales targets, sales goals, objectives are being achieved as per plans across territories, across branches, regions, zones, etc. So that is why Salesforce evaluation becomes essential. The outcome, of course, is either the fact that things are perfect and in place, and in those cases the company may not have to take any action at all, or it may then based on the potential in the market, it may decide to increase the targets. However, if things are not going on as planned, then corrective action is required, And this would mean that certain measures need to be taken either with respect to the job design, or with respect to the targets, or maybe training of the sales force and orientation of the sales force and motivation, etc. So let us go discuss this topic on sales force evaluation. The various topics which we shall be covering are the meaning of evaluation, the purpose of evaluation, what are the methods for evaluation, the process of evaluation. Now the process of evaluation is something which is it is a 4-step process, and we will be elaborating on it in detail. So the first step of it, which we will discuss in this particular lecture, and the subsequent 3 stages of the process we shall be discussing in the next lecture. And the next lecture we shall also speak about the determinants of an effective evaluation system and what are the common perceptual errors during performance evaluation. So let us begin with the topic. Now, what is evaluation? Now, evaluation is a system, it's an organized and periodic assessment of an employee's performance on his present job and his potential for future jobs. So, evaluation actually aims at assessing a person's performance at periodic intervals to examine as to how he is performing on the job and the kind of potential he has with respect to his knowledge, skills and abilities, so that he can contribute even better in future on those sales positions or on higher sales positions. It's also referred to as performance evaluation or performance appraisal, and the aim of any performance evaluation system is to assess the effectiveness and efficiency of the sales force and to prepare them for future. So if we define it a little more, it is an effective means for controlling the performance of sales personnel as well, because it involves comparing the actual sales performance of employees with the desired performance of the sales personnel and taking corrective actions for improving their performance. So it basically involves the actual sales performance of employees with the desired and taking corrective action for improving their performance in future, and also to prepare them for future job positions. What is the purpose of evaluation? Now, as I said, the purpose of evaluation is to assess as to how well the salespersons have performed and over a period of time, and this will of course help decide on matters like 1, feedback to the employees. Now here, in case performance has been up to the mark, it has been as per standards, it also means that there has to be a reward system for the good performers and for the sales personnel who have met the desired performance level. So these rewards could be monetary and non-monetary. We have discussed them when we did motivation, and higher commissions, incentives, bonuses and recognition, all of which we covered under our topic on compensation, act as motivators. So the evaluation helps decide matters with respect to rewards and reward systems. It also provides insights into the kind of training needs and the kind of training programs that must be designed. So training needs and design of training programs according to training needs is something which needs to be taken care of, and the basis of this is again performance evaluation or performance appraisals of existing employees. So both underperformers and good performers may need to be provided with training. For the underperformers, it would help them improve their performance, and for the overperformers or good performers, it would actually mean enhancing their knowledge, skills and abilities to prepare them for future job positions. So this would again mean a takeaway for career development, whether it is with respect to promotions or transfers or need for more training on the new jobs or the new positions which a person must have, because he needs to be now trained for a higher job if he has been promoted, or he has to be trained for another job which is not something which he was doing earlier. So the evaluation also helps provide inputs into career development, where if a person is being where it is examined and assessed as to who are the people who can be promoted, who are those who can be internally transferred, who are those who can be sent to other who can be actually positioned on different jobs with different job profiles, and and of course that would also come with that would also mean some kind of training for them to be able to perform on their new positions in a better manner. So what we are talking of is continual sales training programs. So evaluation also helps not only in training and initial training, but also of the continual sales training programs, which will be conducted for people who are either underperformers or who are good performers but have to be now sent to new positions or transferred to new positions, and have to be given more responsibility and more duties and responsibilities. Now, evaluation also helps in job design and goal setting. Several times it is realized that the goals that had been set or the targets that had been set was something which were not realistic, and if they are not realistic, it would mean revisiting the objectives. So so evaluation also provides inputs into job design and goal setting, where it may mean that objectives have to be revised in case they are unrealistic, and again jobs have to be made more interesting, more authority has to be provided to the salespersons, or more autonomy has to be provided to them, or there has to be more the jobs have to be enriched more, made more exciting enough for them to be kept motivated on the job so that they can perform well. We have discussed earlier that if a salesperson is made to sell in a particular territory for years together, or if he has been made to sell certain products or sell to the same customers for years together, it may become monotonous, it may become boring for him, and there again performance may decline. So in those cases again either the job has to be made more enriching, so that there is some kind of a motivation which is given to him with respect to the job factors or the job content factors, which we discussed when we did Herzberg's theory of motivation. And else on the other hand, it may also be so happening that the targets which have been set are too unrealistic, and so in that case also it would mean revision of goals, or changing the targets, revising the targets so as to make them more realistic. So the purpose of evaluation is one, to bring about a reward system in place, and to ensure that people who have met the desired performance levels are rewarded, and these rewards could be monetary and non-monetary, both of which will be motivating for them and encourage them to perform even better in the days to come. Second is with respect to training needs and design of training programs, which becomes essential when it is seen that a salesperson's performance is much below the desired, which probably is happening because the sales force is not trained enough, or the fresh hired sales people have been put on the field without any training, and they have to be brought back to the classroom, or to mentors to be able to get better training. And again, for those people who are already working in the organization, if performance is low, again it would mean that there is some kind of a training, some kind of an orientation which was required to enhance their knowledge, skills and abilities, and to prepare them to perform better on their respective job positions. Again, evaluation would also help identify the good performers, which would mean decisions taken with respect to their promotions or their transfers to higher positions, or other departments and other job positions. So in a way, what we are talking of is career development. And evaluation also helps with respect to taking decisions on job designs to make them more interesting, and a revision of targets if it is felt that the targets which have been set are something which is unrealistic. Of course, the point one which I have stated here is feedback to employees, and one of the major takeaways for formal evaluation process is feedback to be given to employees. If the employees have performed well, they need to be appreciated. If the employees have not performed well, there has to be some kind of a mechanism for constructive criticism. There also has to be some kind of a mentoring program or an orientation program or a training program which can ensure that people who have been underperformers can be brought to satisfactory levels of performance. So, these are the various reasons why evaluation systems are necessary in organizations and in the sales function. Now, what are the different methods of evaluation? Now, basically what is used are certain kinds of measures, and these measures could be objective measures and subjective measures. Objective measures are those which are quantitative measures, and they measure employee performance in terms of units that can be quantified, they can be seen and quantified. On the other hand, subjective measures are measures which are more qualitative in nature, and they measure employee performance based on human judgment like rating, ranking, paired comparison, force distribution. So this would mean that the subjective measures, although they are more tilted towards the qualitative measures, some element of quantitative measures may be brought in if rating scales are used. Now, ranking is when one person is compared to another, and there are 10 ranks and 10 different people are being ranked, and ranks are given according to subjective judgment by the immediate superior or the branch manager. And paired comparisons are when two people are compared, or a pair is compared one against another on several qualities. And force distribution is when a certain amount of people have to be graded as the best, and another percentage has to be graded as the average, and another percentage has to be graded as the poor performers. So according to subjective assessments of the appraisers, these people are placed into these different categories. The distribution is called a force distribution because the percentage of people who have to be fitted into these categories is well prescribed and defined. And of course, the rating scales are often used to rate people on scales of 5 or 7. Again here, because it's a subjective assessment on qualities which are later rated on scales, this makes a system little quantitative. Now, let us go into the process of sales force evaluation, and if we see that any evaluation system comprises the following stages, where we begin with establishing performance standards for sales personnel, measuring the actual performance of sales personnel, and then comparing the actual against the standards which have been postulated in stage 1, and then we identify deviations and take corrective action. So, the first step is establishing performance standards, second is measuring actual performance of the salespeople, third is comparing actual against standards, and fourth is identifying deviations and taking corrective action. So, let us first start with the first stage. We shall be covering this first stage in this lecture. The subsequent stages 2, 3 and 4 shall be discussed in the next lecture. So, first what is done whenever people have to be evaluated, they must be evaluated against certain standards, certain benchmarks, and so the first stage in the sales force evaluation process is establishing performance standards for salespeople. Now, performance standards are also called as sales objectives or targets or sales quotas, and it involves establishing performance standards based on the nature of the job. So, whenever standards have to be set for sales personnel, it is very important that they are based on the nature of the job, and there has to be a coherence between the sales performance standards and what is critical for performing a job, so that the desired results can be obtained. So, hence a sales job analysis is very, very necessary, and what we are talking of again here is the job description. So, you start with a job analysis and a job description, and then what becomes important is establishing performance standards, which again would mean setting up a policy framework for performance evaluation of sales force. So, performance standards, when they have to be set, it is very important that they are set differently for different sales jobs, And so, what the first step which is required is a sales job analysis and a sales job description, which will help understand the nature of the job. And establishing performance standards would require setting up of a policy framework for the performance evaluation of the sales force. So there are certain issues that must be decided upon. First is who shall evaluate the sales force or the sales personnel. What are the measures that shall be used? Here what we are talking of, will it be objective measures or subjective measures or both? We just discussed the objective being quantitative and the subjective being qualitative. And when will the evaluation take place, and what would be the frequency of this evaluation? Is it going to be something which is once a year, or it's going to be something which is twice a year? And so is it going to be annually, or is it going to be half yearly? Is it going to be quarterly? Okay. So and what will be the source of information on the basis of which evaluations are going to be made? So this would mean deciding on the various kinds of reports, like the sales volume reports or the selling expense reports or the customers lost reports or the new accounts reports, etc. So again, it's very important to mention here that the performance standards will vary across the nature of the job and the selling strategies involved. For example, the performance standards for service and developmental selling would vary vary a lot. So it's very important that when sales managers sit to evaluate their sales force, they have to decide on the standards and on the benchmarks, which must be done based on a job description or a sales job description. And it's also important that a policy is formulated with respect to who will be the appraiser, and what are the measures that will be used for appraising, and when will the evaluation takes place, where and how often, and what will be the source of information for evaluating the sales force or for measuring the performance, obtaining measures for their performance. So this is which is something very, very crucial. Now, to formulate realistic performance standards, companies must possess the knowledge of the total sales potential of a company as well as the territorial distribution. They must know very well that what is the market potential and what is the company sales potential. And if you remember, we spoke of the market potential as the industry potential, and we spoke of the company sales potential as the company potential. And we also and this not only is the total sales potential important, it's also the territorial distribution of such potential which is vital. So to set realistic standards, it becomes very important that companies have the knowledge of the total sales potential. They should also have information about the potential profitability of the company as regards the various product classes and the classes of customers or who are being catered to. Selling expense of the company in different territories also must be known. Now, this information helps a company in setting required volume of sales, required volume of sales which are essential for a company for reaching the break-even point and the desired profitability. Because if you recall, we have spoken earlier that sales is important, but there is also it's also important that the selling expenses are curbed, else the net profit would get diluted. So companies must possess knowledge about the selling expenses, and they must also possess knowledge about the strengths, the weaknesses of the competitors, their policies, their practices, their market share, etc. So to formulate realistic performance standards, companies must have knowledge about the total sales potential overall as well as territorial distribution. 2, they must have an idea about the potential profitability of the company with respect to different kinds of products that they are manufacturing and selling, as well as with respect to the classes of customers that they are dealing with. 3, they must have an idea about the selling expenses of the company across territories. And 4th, they must also be aware of competitors' strengths and weaknesses, their market share, the products that they sell, and their selling policies and practices. Now, as I just said, performance standards may be objective and subjective, and the performance standards which vary again across the kind of sales jobs and sales positions based on the nature of the job, the selling strategies and methods involved, as well as conditions prevailing in the industry. So, whenever companies decide on the performance standards, whether it is quantitative standards or qualitative standards, they must keep in mind that these standards will vary across sales jobs and sales positions based on the nature of the job, the selling strategies and methods involved, the conditions in the market and in the industry, etc. And whatever standards are set must be very realistic, and they must be well communicated to the sales force. The salesperson must be communicated very well in advance what they are supposed to earn for the company and in what period. So, they must be very clearly informed, very specifically they should be informed and communicated that what in how much period. So, what do they have to sell and how much do they have to sell in terms of sales volume and in terms of unit and in what period. So, these are things which need to be taken care of. Now, quantitative standards, as I said, are those which are objective and they define the nature and desired level of performance, and quantitative standards are such which have been used by companies for encouraging employee performance for years and years altogether. There are different kinds of quantitative performance standards, like for example the quotas, the selling expense ratio, the territorial net profit or the gross margin ratio, and the territorial market share, the sales coverage effectiveness index, the call frequency ratio, the order call ratio, average cost per call, average order size, as well as non-selling activities. We shall be discussing all of these standards in the next few minutes, and of course companies use a combination of these standards as instruments of control and so that they can ensure that the sales force are kept motivated towards desired levels of performance. Now, we also have qualitative standards, and these standards are used for such aspects which cannot be measured or quantified, and they are mainly used for appraising the performance characteristics of employees which will have an impact on the sales in the long term. So, qualities like sincerity, commitment, customer relationships, good interpersonal relation, punctuality, modesty, politeness are few of these traits which need to be subjectively assessed. Now, because qualitative performance standards are subjective in nature, executive judgment plays a very critical role in measuring qualitative performance. Now, we shall be discussing the subsequent stages in the next lecture, but what we need to discuss now is something on the performance standards. So, what I am now going to discuss are some of these performance standards and the description of these standards. So, the most popularly used and widely used and standard is what we refer to as the quotas, which clearly specify to a salesperson what he must sell, how much and in what period. So, these standards are expressed in absolute terms, whether it is monetary terms in rupees or it could be in units or it could also be in points. What is the point quota here is something which we shall be discussing subsequently in our chapter on sales quotas. We will put that on hold for later discussion. Now, quotas are standards which are expressed in absolute terms, and they are apportioned to a specific marketing unit. Now, the specific marketing unit here could be a salesperson, it could be a branch, it could be a a dealer, or it could be a territory, and the desired level of sales volume, gross profit, net profit, selling expenses, or a combination of all of them are actually specified. So, this is one of the most popularly used quotas and more popularly used performance standards, and we shall have a separate discussion on quotas in our lectures next week. So, in a nutshell, quotas are standards which are expressed in absolute terms in rupees or in number of units or as points, and they clearly indicate what a salesperson must sell, how much of it and in what period. It is, as I said, the most widely used standard. The second is a selling expense ratio. Now, we have discussed earlier that salespersons contribute to organizations' net profit in two ways. One, by earning huge sales for the company, and two, by curbing the selling expenses. So the selling expense ratio basically tries to curb the selling expenses of the salesperson. It acts as a control element on the selling expenses incurred by the salespeople, because if the selling expenses are very high, it would dilute the profits of the company, the net profits of the company. So what is assessed is selling expenses in relation to the sales, and the ratio is determined on the basis of estimates regarding both the sales volume potential and the selling expenses in a particular territory, and hence the selling expense may vary across territories and across salesperson serving in different territories, because the expense condition across territories may vary. It may be very, tier 1 and tier 2 cities may be more expensive than tier 3 cities in terms of travel, in terms of boarding and lodging, in terms of entertaining clients, etc. So the selling expense ratio varies across territories and across salespersons serving across different territories. The third performance standard which we speak of is a territorial net profit or a gross margin ratio. Now, these standards are determined on the basis of the required territorial ratio of net profit to sales or gross margin to sales for each of the territories. The objective is to encourage salespersons to sell a balanced line of products, and also to keep in mind the relative profitability across different products, across different customer segments and territories. Now, often it happens that that a small ticket item is easy to sell, and so the salesperson concentrates on the small ticket item. It's also easy to obtain small orders as compared to large orders. So again, the salespersons may concentrate on obtaining small orders, but this is something which can, which the competitor can gain advantage of, whether it is big in terms of big orders or in big big ticket items, or it could be also bigger clients. So this is something which a company would not desire at any cost, and so to ensure that there is a balanced line of orders for of products, and to keep in mind the relative profitability across different products, different customer segments and territories, the territorial net profit or the gross margin ratios are specified. The objective here is that each territory must contribute towards the overall profits of the company, and all kinds of big and small ticket items as well as big and small orders, as well as high and low profit potentials customers are paid attention to. The next standard is the territorial market share. Now, in order to control the company's market share on a territory by territory basis, the target excuse me, the target market share percentages for each territory are specified. So what the company tries to do is that it actually stipulates the target market share percentage for each territory, so that it can control the company, so that the market share of the company can be controlled on a territory by territory basis. After this, the company sales to industry sales in each of the territories is compared to check the effectiveness and efficiency of the salespersons. So the standard serves as a basis for maintaining a certain level of customers across each territory. Companies would always and always want that they have large market shares in every territory that they are serving, and to ensure that they prescribe this standard, and once the appraisal period is over, or every quarterly or every half yearly, the company sales in the territory is to the industry sales in the territory is assessed to check the efficiency and effectiveness of the sales force. The next performance standard is the sales coverage effectiveness index, which is calculated as a ratio of the number of customers to total prospects in a particular sales territory, and individual standards for sales coverage are specified for customers across segments, and these customers will vary across size, across class. Then we have the call frequency ratio, which is calculated by dividing the number of sales call made to a particular class of customers by the total number of customers in that class. So the method ensures that the sales efforts are being made towards such customers who are the more profitable ones and the more probable ones to give huge orders. Another standard which is used by companies is calls per day, and these relate to the number of calls which salesperson are required to make every day. Now this ensures that the generation of leads which would help salespersons in future is done properly, and the standard is determined on the customer density and the spread on the road and traffic conditions in the particular territory, and so it would vary across territories. So this particular ratio it assures generation of leads which would help salespersons plan their activities in the future days, and of course the standard would be determined based on the customer spread, the customer density, the condition of the road, condition of the traffic, and would vary across territories. Then we have the order call ratio, which is calculated by dividing the orders materialized with the number of calls made. So in a way what we are talking of is a number of orders received to the number of calls made. So it is used again as a measure to judge the effectiveness of salespersons as regarding obtaining final orders, and it is also called popularly as the batting average ratio, and these are again set for different categories of customers or different classes of customers, whether they are high or medium or low profit potentials. Other standards which we have is the average cost per call, which highlights the relevance of profitable calls, and it is mainly used as a measure of reducing calls or reducing the call frequency on orders that require more calls but are less profitable. And then we have the average size order. The average size order or the average order size controls the frequency of calls that are made on different accounts, and different targets are set for different kinds of customers, be it customers based on size or on different classes of customers. And by determining the average order size, sales personnel are encouraged to put more effort towards selling to those accounts from which they can obtain large orders. And then finally, we also have performance standards for non-selling activities. Now, non-selling activities are generally not linked to any kind of a monetary incentive or compensation. That is why salespersons want to avoid or ignore such activities, which is not something which is very wise. So to ensure that such non-selling activities are also conducted, performance measures or standards are also laid out or prescribed for them. And these such activities include a collection of payments from dealers and distributors, securing displays of product at various locations, entering local advertising agreements with dealers, goodwill building with customers, follow-up calls with customers, etc. So with this we come to an end of this session, and we have references still Kandev, Govoni, Puri, Sales and Distribution Management, Panda and Sehdev, Sales and Distribution Management, and again Panda and Sehdev, Sales and Distribution Management 2011, and then we have Havaldar and Kawale, Sales and Distribution Management 2017, McGraw Hill. So this brings us to an end of the 5th lecture on the 6th module of the course. I hope you found this beneficial. We shall be now deliberating on the next 3 stages in the next lecture. Thank you.